Welcome to Blinkers Off with your hosts, Jared Welch and Aaron Halterman.
Good afternoon. I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. It is Thursday, January 29th, and this is Blinkers Off 766. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, what's going on? It's finally starting to thaw out here at home, so that's good. And what a kind of a it sucks that Oakland had to cancel and stuff like that, but I still think we're setting up for a pretty darn good weekend coming up for the Derby Trail.
Yeah, it's we're just getting out of a snowstorm. I think the whole country really is. We talked a little bit about that last week. My kids finally went back to school today, which thank the Lord, because it's been pure chaos. Anybody that has kids understands that, I'm sure. But a little bit back to normal. Yeah, Oakland canceling the Southwest. That was supposed to be this weekend, for good reason, and moving it to Friday. That card is going to move to Friday of next week. So stay tuned for that. Obviously, that race was shaping up to be very good. And so we'll see kind of who stays in that field. We won't talk much about that field today because we don't know, horses could change or whatever out of that race. But we'll talk about that obviously next week's show. But Halterman, you got back a few days ago, but you got back from Gulfstream Park. And I just have one thing to ask you.
Okay.
What the hell happened at the Pegasus?
Yeah, it was a crazy day. Certainly a couple of the races you look back and you're just like, yeah, I can never, the way I handicap, I'm never getting some of those, right? And then some of them was like, yeah, I made a wrong decision here or there. But the Pegasus itself is just fascinating. The Cox horses didn't show up again. That's kind of been a Pegasus thing, I feel like lately. They didn't run very well. White Abario looks like the winner. And then, what a time for Skippy Longstocking to get his first ever grade 1 win. And I was down the stretch just rooting as hard as I could for him to get home because I knew I was dead with all my bets. And I was glad he got it done. But, it was a weird day to all the way around. And then that race is just like, wow. And, I chuckle because people are like, well, Saffie Joseph 1-2 at Gulfstream. His horses didn't run a step all day long on that card, like not a step. And then there they run 1-2. So it was a fascinating day. And just a very unpredictable race, in my opinion.
What would you say is, what's more surprising, that the Cox horses ran so poorly or that Saffie ran 1-2? Because as bad as Disco was, Pan Street was not even. He might as well not. He never did anything. I don't know what that was.
You could probably say that Pan Street was even worse than Disco Time because Pan Street got the setup right. Like I thought down the backside, I was like, well, Disco Time is not going to win. He's going to have to be a monster, and he's not that. I felt really not good at all. But I kept looking for Pan Street. Like, okay, it is setting up for him. He should be in good shape, and he never fires whatsoever. Poster, a horse I thought the pace was setting up good for him. He never fired. Banishing never fired. And then, lo and behold, it's Skippy Longstocking who gets the benefit of that pace and gets the job done. So it was a strange race. I would say I was more surprised that neither Cox horse did anything. Because, Saffie finishing 1-2 in Florida, that's not out of the realm.
Yeah, it's been a weird year. And I'm glad that we're talking about this because I was thinking about this on Saturday, after the races. And I was just like, it's so, for as good of a year, like percentage-wise, as Brad has had, it's baffling sometimes, as some of these runners have been, where it's just, you just don't know when they're going to show up, when they're not going to show up. A horse that looks great on paper won't run a step. He might have multiple entries and it's the other one. Then other times it's clear as day, like the horse that you thought would win wins. And it's been hard to understand what Cox horses are going to run and which ones won't.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's 2 weekends in a row. They haven't ran very well, but short memory in horse racing and in betting, we all have that. It's like he did win, 2 out of the 3-year-old races to start the season. My World won and Commandment won. And so, but then Rancho Santa Fe, a horse that people were excited about, didn't run a step at Oaklawn. So I get the point for sure. It does kind of feel like we're either firing off the board or we're just not showing up. And that is weird for him. It's early. I'm not real worried about this being a long-term thing. And I think sometimes he has to just kind of sort out his horses as they go. I will say this. Is Japan Street really that good was a question I had in my head going into the race. And I think that may have been it. Now the disco time thing, I think the pace was a big part of it. And I just think he went too fast, and that was kind of it. He was kind of explainable to me.
I think the disco time thing for me when I was watching it was like, okay, well, he's either a absolute monster, right? Because that's what he's going to have to be, basically. And, we went into it wondering, like, you don't know, like we kind of talked about that on the show. It's like, well, he could be a lot of things we don't really know yet. And so my thought process during the race was like, he's either an absolute monster because he's going to have to be to win with this pace, or he is going to just back off something fierce here. And of course, the latter was true. Even as bad as I'm with you, Japan Street was not like, I think we both agreed on that the other day. Like, he was overrated because of the sovereignty win.
Yeah.
But at the end, even then, it's like, it's hard to believe he was that bad in that race. Like, I'll pull it up here on the screen here. And I think going back to it is like, that's why it's been, and I think that's why it feels a lot worse. Like you mentioned with Brad Cox, it's like, it's not like Disco Time runs second here and, gets beat, or Japan Street runs third and can't get there. And it's just not quite. It's like their horses are either running like they look like Kentucky Derby winners, or they look like they could win a maiden race, right? And so it's kind of, and again, I know that's being dramatic. But it feels like here as of late, it's like all or nothing.
Well, and to be fair, how many Cox horses have you seen to get this Disco Time trip and go fast and are still keep going? I mean, that's happened a lot, and that didn't happen here. Now, again, Flavien Prat had a really bad day. And I thought he actually gave some bad rides. And I think this is one of them, because you're on a horse that can come from out of it. Like, and I'm not saying put him in last, but just kind of rate him in the pocket and let him go. I thought it was a poor ride. I don't know. Maybe the horse isn't very good, but I find that hard to believe.
Well, because Full Serrano's not going anywhere,
that's just it. And I don't know. I thought it was just dumb. But the Japan Street thing, as I was watching, I was like, yeah, this is setting up. This looks great. And he just didn't. You see him back there. He just didn't fire at all. So, I mean, it is what it is. You get to the top of the stretch, it's like, wow, Wida Barrio, unbelievable. He's going to win this thing going away again. And then it's like, wait a second. He hasn't ran since August, and it hit him right in the face right here. And then here comes Skippy to get the job done. So,
Skippy, what a horse Skippy is.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So the whole day in itself was tough, to say the least. And really the Pegasus races felt that way. And they were, they were the last 3 of the last 4 races. The pick 4 pays $12,000 on a 50-cent ticket, 12.6, I think, on a 50-cent ticket, that late pick 4. And so, I mean, obviously it was a very tough sequence to get to. The other races were plausible, like you could get there. But at the same time, that you kind of like you said a second ago, it's like, yeah, maybe I thought about that one, and couldn't get there. I thought the turf was very disappointing. I don't know. It was a tough way to end the day, because it just kind of felt like you couldn't get, as far as picks go, you couldn't get the job done.
No, yeah, it was horrible. It was one of the worst days I've ever had. And I again, like, anytime you have a day like that, you do reevaluate things and you work on things or whatever. But a lot of times, like, I would kind of reevaluate a race, and there were times where I was like, I made a dumb decision here or there that could have been avoided. Some of these are just like, I wasn't gonna do that ever. Like there's and that's look, if you did, good on you. I mean, I think congratulations if you strung some of these together, but some of these races, like the Pegasus itself, it's like I'm not playing that. Like I'm just not.
No.
And again, I'm not taking a shot at anybody that did. That's good on you and congratulations. That was a great job, but I'm not getting there. The test score thing, maybe, I could have, I thought about that one for bits, but I didn't really knock myself or beat myself up over it. Yeah. And then the filly and mare turf, it's like, I looked at the 3 for a while, but again, putting the horse on top, probably not. Like if you're going 5-6 deep in a pick 5 and that's the race you choose, yes, that's perfect. I could have got there, and but using the horse on top is just I couldn't get there with this, Dioro. So it is what it is. But yeah, the test score thing, I that is the one of the 3 Pegasus races where I'm like, probably overrated program trading, and probably could have got him, if not on top, at least involved a little bit more. But we got one email and it's like, man, that was a rough day. It's like, yeah, and I don't have any excuse or explanation. I got to a lot of those.
Yeah, and I kind of was, I know you stay off of it for good reason, but I obviously handled the social media, and I was, kind of going through and looking. I posted some things like that was crazy, impossible results. It's hard to get there, and here are the winners of, the 3 Pegasus races. Like, how would we ever, going to get all 3 of those kind of thing? And there really was, and and as well as I do, like we have a bad day, like we're going to hear about it, right? That's just kind of the nature of the business we're in, and there really wasn't a lot of chatter on social media. And that kind of tells you, I think, in a nutshell, like everybody was kind of sitting there scratching their heads like this was just tough, right?
Yeah. I talked to a couple people at the track too, and they were saying the same thing. It's just like, I don't really know, and like, look, they're like, picking, Life and Times instead of Night Bridge. Okay. That was completely my fault. Right. And I can look back and say that. Right. But some of this other stuff, it's like, there's no way I can look at this thing from enough angles to get to what happened there. Right. And, Christopher Maiello just pointed out, if you would have told me program trading was going to scrape the paint the whole way, the rail was going to open up and all he had to do was just fire. I mean, I thought he was in great shape. I thought Turn for Home, he was going to win, and he just didn't run at all. And it's just like, that happened to me a lot. Like risk tolerance in the 3rd race, a horrific ride, or he probably wins the race. Ohana Honor didn't even pick up his feet. So it's like, it was just weird stuff that happened, and a few races where it's like, yeah, he could have done better there, but overall, I just kind of turned the page and haven't worried about it because it was strange.
Well, the Pegasus aside, because that one, like, I'm never getting to skip. I mean, like Skippy, never getting him to win. The other 2 were very frustrating for me because it's like, hey, the both horses that won, I used underneath. Like, I thought were good horses, so it wasn't like totally unpredictable. But at the same time, the horses I picked weren't even finishing, right? Like, that was the frustrating thing. It was like, so the horses I'm picking on top, one of them, which I thought was a really likely winner, didn't finish at all, hardly. And then the ones that I liked underneath were winning. And so you're just like, and then of course, Disco Time to throw it all, in a nutshell together, where it's like, oh, we're not even going to run it all today. So it became very frustrating. My kind of comment on social media was like, hey, listen, it happens. Like you kind of alluded to, it's not a lot you can do. I mean, sure, go through. It's always good to go back through and kind of see what you could have done differently if you could have or whatnot, and kind of go back through. But at the same time, it's just one of those days. And I'm kind of wondering, we've talked about so much with the Pegasus getting, watered down day because of Saudi and Dubai and all these things. And it's like, is it becoming less and less like, or more and more like these crazy days because the fields aren't very good, and really you're just kind of you can't go into these days anymore thinking like, well, like program trading, that's the best horse, he's gonna win, or whatever. It's like, well, he's here and that means he's not there, you know what I mean? And like, maybe this is less likely and we're gonna see something crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's 2 years in a row, I guess, where we've kind of seen some weird results. I think every year's different. I think this year it did kind of set up where it's like we had some favorites where you just weren't quite sure of them. But I guess where I come in at, it's like, okay, let's say they run, 3 weeks later somewhere else. It's like the data's all going to look the same. You know what I mean? Like you're still probably going to pick the same horses. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I think it's, I think the one thing we know for sure is the absolute like top superstars are not coming to this anymore. Like
No.
you're not getting a sovereignty, and you're not getting a journalism even, and you're not getting a Baeza even, you know what I mean? So it does make it a little bit more of a challenge for sure. But, I mean, the one thing you when you're losing or when you have a bad day, you do need to go back and look at why it happened. But you also need to go back with the attitude of, oh, I should have done this, this, and this. Every race is not realistic because you know the results now, right? You have to go back and be honest with yourself and go, well, okay, Skippy Longstocking. What is my path? If I didn't know the results, what is the path of getting to Skippy Longstocking in the Pegasus, right? And it's like, I don't have a path, right? So
Yeah.
it's like that. Play him in second or third or fourth and exacta tries to, yeah, you probably could get there for sure, but I'm not picking him to win that race. So anyway, I don't think it's a card where you look back and really get upset with yourself is how I would kind of describe it.
No, I'm not too worried about it. Honestly, I've kind of I think like in a nutshell, it isn't what it used to be, and to me that day proved it or kind of solidified that in my mind. Like, hey, all right, the Pegasus is not what it used to be or what I hoped it would be, but it's still a fun day. But at the same time, I have to go into it, handicapping it more like a regular card versus, hey, the stars are here, the stars will show up kind of thing, and that's not necessarily the case. I don't, even like horses like the two, horses were complaining about, not running well, the Disco Time and Japan Street, totally unproven horses, right? Like even though it's good, like it's disappointing they ran so bad. At the same time, you're like, well, they hadn't done anything yet either, and they obviously still haven't. But the point is if that's sovereignty and he runs up the track, that's the whole other thing.
Japan Street's a grade 1 winner, something Skippy Longstocking was not before the race. I will point that out. So
isn't that insane to think about?
Yeah, so it's like
hasn't proven anything. Yeah,
Japan Street hasn't done anything. He's like, well, he's a grade 1 winner and he beat sovereignty. I think that's two things that Skippy Longstocking, didn't have in his resume before.
What Skippy won in his career now? What is he at?
I don't know his updated one. Let's see. He was he had won 3.78 million before that. So he's up over 5.
He's at 5.4.
And I was cheering pretty loudly for him once I saw him because I really wanted him to get. I'm a huge fan of this horse. I texted you guys after the race, said, hey, I picked him 3 years ago in this race. Does that count for anything? No, it does not. He was 7th the day I picked him back in 2023. So anyway,
you should have known fourth time when he got it. You should have known that.
And that's, you look at it and it's just like, how did this happen? He was 7th the first time he tried it. He didn't finish the second time he tried it. I think he did he got 3rd last year behind Wide Barrio, and then this year he wins it. Crazy. I also thought, when Wide Barrio made that move, that's when I thought for a second, well, you're pretty stupid because, you knew if he fired, he was going to win and he's going to win it again. You know what I mean? So that one would have kind of made me be mad at myself.
Well, I tell you what, he lost, but he ran well. I mean, I don't know if there's ever been a more horse for course than Wide Barrio. That dude loves Gulfstream Park. Yeah. I mean, I'm convinced you could retire him for a year and run him back in this race once a year, and he'd probably run pretty well. He loves he just loves Gulfstream Park, and he refuses to go away, especially when they run here. So, like you said, I think that time off got to him a little bit there late in the race, but he ran well. He looked like the winner at the top of mid top of the stretch. So, but hey, Pegasus is behind us. The answer, I guess, to what I asked you, what the hell happened at Gulfstream Park, we don't really know, but it did happen.
I will say one thing that I'm pretty much washed my hands of, and that's like really even considering jockeys anymore when it comes to Christopher says since saying T-Gap was struggling, he's won $10 million in purse money. I'm almost to the point now where it's like they're all capable of bad rides. They're all capable of good rides. And it's almost irrelevant to me anymore. And that's not to say that I don't think some are better than others, and so, because they are, but boy, it just seems like none of them are going to really do what you want them to do every time,
Yeah.
So,
well, at the end of the day, they are riding animals, right? And things can happen, and bad rides can happen. And I do think, and you may not agree with this, but I do think jockeys are a lot like, other athletes, where it's like they can get hot and they can get very cold at times. Like, I think those streaks are something you can actually ride. There's been like when Pratt's like red hot in the summer or whatever, like, dude, this guy can't, every decision he makes on the track is the right one. Same goes for when a guy, and it's just like in basketball or something, if this guy been on fire lately, anytime he touches the ball, he thinks he can make the shot, versus if you're going a cold streak, you feel like everything you do is wrong. And I do think in some regards, you can, if there is a jockey that is hot or cold, like you can kind of dictate that a little bit. But to your point, all things being equal, yeah, I think any day there's a possibility of making a bad decision.
Yeah, I guess what I would say is this: I 100% acknowledge jockeys are important. They can make a difference. They get hot, they get cold, all of that. I guess where I'm at with it is, I don't think it's predictable. No. You know what I mean by that? Like,
well, yeah,
okay, he's won 5 to yesterday, and okay, we saw that. I don't know that. Okay, we're going to load up on him today. I don't know that that's that predictable. You know what I mean? It just kind of feels like you're always chasing it. You see it, and then you're like, okay, now we do it. But then something else happens, and it's like, oh, now Jose Ortiz won 4 today. You're chasing. You don't ever go into it and go, this is the day he's going to get hot. You know what I mean? And so I think that's like, I acknowledge all of that as a thing. I feel like it's hard to get on the right kind of side with it as a gambler.
And so don't like put all your eggs in the basket is what you're saying.
Yeah, maybe. And that's the best way to put it is just like, Pratt's on, so he'll probably win. I don't know. I just don't think that's a thing. I don't know.
What about whenever it comes to, like, we've talked a lot about this. We pretty much talk about it every time we're looking at a race where it's like, hey, like, he could have rode this one. He chose this one. He's on, multiple horses. Like, how much is that? Are you lessening that as well?
I mean, yeah, I really think so. How many times do we see the other one win? And we're gonna look like you got a couple maidens that are gonna run, and Hernandez is 1-on-1 and Kimura is on 1, and it's like, they look pretty identical when you watch workouts and stuff. So I don't know, you know, it'll help. It can help you maybe, but I wouldn't let it be like the deciding factor. If it's like, and I really just have no clue, then you look at stuff like that. But if you really love one horse or another, just stick with the one you love and don't worry about it.
Yeah, especially like you said, when it comes to these maidens or the horses, even running in these stakes races as 3-year-olds that are still somewhat lightly raced, like, you just, at the end of the day, you don't, a jockey's on a horse thinking they're going to be good, or thinking someone, that they're supposed to be good. But at the end of the day, especially when they're going, say, from 7 furlongs to a mile and 1/8 or whatever, like, you don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm with you. I agree. But I do think you can use it as a baseline, but I wouldn't necessarily ever go one way or another with those, especially as they're younger. So, all right, let's get to today's show. Lots to talk about. We have a Kentucky Derby prep races. We got one Kentucky Oaks prep race. We got a non-Kentucky Derby prep race, but kind of is a prep race. So we'll talk more about that. We'll talk a little bit more about kind of the updates from the Kentucky Derby Trail, who's rising, who's falling from what we saw last weekend, maybe some races to look forward to coming up this weekend. All things related to Derby and Oaks. Let's not waste any more time. Let's go. All right, let's kick things off here at Nice and Toasty Aqueduct. All right, on Saturday, race number 9 at Aqueduct, the Withers Stakes. This is a Kentucky Derby prep race, 2010 642 for your top 5 finishers, 200K on the line, going a mile and 8th. That's right, a mile and 8th for the 3-year-olds in a field of 8. Shows up here, and this is definitely the weaker of the, well, it was going to be 3, now 2 Derby preps. That feels like on the weekend. With that said, you got a couple Chad Browns in here that look very good. Still somewhat unproven, but we'll see what they do here. What do you think of this field?
Yeah, I don't think the field's much. I do think there's the 2 Chad Brown horses seem to be the squarely the ones to beat, and I think they are the ones that moving forward kind of are going to project to be the best. I thought it was pretty cut and dry. I went number 6 Ottenho on top in this spot. He's the only horse that's won at the distance, and I think that's very important when you're going a mile and an 8th here in January. I thought that was a very important thing. So, Ottenho going a mile and an 8th, only horse to win at the distance. Only one other horse has even ran at the distance, and that's the 7, who was 5th in the Rimson. So, I really like the progression from start 1 to start 2. Lost to a decent enough horse and Forced Agenda on debut. Came back in that next maiden race going a mile and an 8th, and I just thought looked good. Kind of struggled out of the gate and didn't get good positioning in that first maiden. None of that happened in the second maiden. Really got a lot better. And I think this is the start where you're going to see this horse really start to blossom. So I really like number 6, Ottenho on top.
Yeah, I believe it's a half brother of Gunrunner, correct? So, being a 3 Chimneys horse as well. So, yeah, I do think this is a horse for me as well. The 6 Ottenho, I liked, like you said, that progression from the first race to the second. Kind of feel like it figured some things out. I like, came from out of it, kind of had to because of the start in that first race. It was on the lead the second race, so obviously has some versatility. Closed in that first one as well. So. Didn't get too discouraged, even though was out of it early in the race. But I do like the fact that he draws outside of the stablemate. So I think we're going to see some sort of setup here for the 6. Plenty of speed signed up on his inside as well. So I like that the race can kind of unfold to his inside. How I guess Flavian is going to ride here. How he kind of sees, and then can kind of jump on it. When later in the race, this horse is bred to go long. Obviously, like you said, one going this long in the last race, so that's not a concern. So yeah, and that there's several horses in here that want to go, and I do think the pace setup will be very. I'll say this, and horse will probably jump out and go straight to the lead like the last one. But I do think drawn outside gives him some options if he needs to sit off.
For sure. And I do think his stablemate, number 1, Schoolyard Superman, is extremely interesting as well. Another horse for Chad Brown that just keeps getting better. Same kind of thing on debut, clipped heels, and that was a disaster. Then got second and then won. So the progression is there as well. Schoolyard Superman, I think, is the most likely horse to go to the front. Maybe him or the 2. I should mention the 2 is one that could, but I think the one from the rail is going to be up there. The worry I have with Schoolyard Superman is the breeding doesn't exactly say mile and an 8th, by Practical Joke out of a Tisnell mare. So maybe on the bottom half, you're going to get it a little bit, but I worry about the distance and can he hold on the whole way around? That's my worry with the Schoolyard Superman. I do like him. I went back and watched that last race again. That was very impressive, but I don't know if he can do it again or not going this distance. I just think his stablemate might be a touch better.
This is a nice one, Mackie. So we'll talk on this horse now. 4th and 1, just punt him. 4th and 1, the 2 horse. Yeah, I think this is a horse that honestly we looked at a little bit this week to claim, mostly because he's running right now, and looked at New York bred, looked decent enough to maybe be competitive in a weaker Withers. What do you think of Fourth and One? Kind of took a while to break through, but that last race definitely broke through and looked awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good race. Got beat by Bravaro a couple of times, who's going to run down in the Holy Bull. We'll talk about Bravaro in a minute. So I thought the horse looked okay. You don't always love seeing 4 starts to break the maiden, but at least he had been beaten by some good horses, in those races. Up at Saratoga was a pretty decent horse that beat him as well that day. So, yeah, I think he's in there with a shot. I just kind of think like the 1 and the 2. I prefer the 1 if I'm looking for a speed horse. So that's where I went with Schoolyard Superman. I wouldn't be shocked about the 2. There's a lot of speed in the race. And if the 3 Project Ace runs here instead of the Holy Bull, which he really should if he can get up there, he might be the benefit of all this. Because you talk about the 1 that wants to go, the 2 wants to go, the 6 isn't going to be too far out of it. Project Ace could pick up some pieces.
Yeah, the 4 and 5 want to go as well. 5 definitely wants to go. We'll talk about him now. Meltaw. This horse has been awesome. Now, every career race has been at Parks. The last 3, especially, were at Parks. Has won by the last race, won by the length of the stretch. Has been awesome, but obviously major class test. But at the very least, got to assume this horse is going to try to go.
Yeah, and I think he's going to go directly to the front. He's getting the lead in 7 furlong races at Parks the last 2 times. Won by 19, like I said last time out. That's pretty impressive. I don't care, where you're running or who you're running against. He's not for me in this spot. It's kind of I need to see him do it going this long. I don't know that this is really going to be what he wants to do ultimately. This could be a pretty good sprint type, that they're going to try to get to the Derby Trail, but maybe ultimately as a sprinter, we'll just have to kind of, monitor it. But he's a good horse. He was supposed to run in the Jerome and he scratched out to run in that race at Parks where he won by 19, probably a pretty good decision. You win a race by 19. I think he did the right thing, but yeah, what he does here is very interesting. I think he's definitely a player on the speed side of things. I just have a hard time thinking he's going to hold on.
Yeah, I'm not for me here, but I do think he's going to be a major presence in the race, especially early on. I actually we'll talk about that race next here in a bit. I actually like Bravaro quite a bit in the Holy Bull. So I do think 4th and 1 is interesting. It more for me is similar to what your thoughts are on the 1, where it's like took that long to break the maiden. He was clearly not Bravaro level in those races, even though he did finish second to him, but it was not necessarily it was a very measured second, I'd say. And, I do think that he's got a lot to prove here. Now, with that said, I think he could certainly pick up the pieces, maybe finish second or third. I wouldn't be surprised at all, especially if one of the Chad Browns doesn't fire or doesn't run well. But my inkling says that we're going to see a Chad Brown exacted here. I think both of these horses kind of stand out to me on paper, and I really think it's going to be a 6-1 exacta.
Yeah, I think they really are the 2 to beat. And I think it's just going to be a matter if it's a 6-1 exacta or whatever, is what does that pace look like, and does one of them kind of get burnt out? I think that's how it finishes something different,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look, I think you go back, you watch the race from Ottenho last time out, it certainly looks like a horse that's heading in the right direction. So, and now it's just a matter of, okay, can we take the next step? Do we get a little better here from that maiden? Do we have to get better? Right. So, I think those are the big question marks there for him. But I do think he certainly showed kind of that next step in the maiden win there at Aqueduct last time out.
And what do you think about this race as a big picture, Derby picture? If 1 or 2 of these Chad Brown horses run well, we haven't talked about the Pletcher horse here for 9-2 on grittiness. I mean, if any of these horses win here, I mean, Is there a possibility they become legit players?
Yeah, I mean, look, we are in a situation this year where you do have that kind of that one standout, which is Ted Nafi, and then everybody else is kind of trying to work their way in, so to speak. So I do think in this year's situation, we might get something out of this race that is worthwhile. I think it's got to be, one of the Browns. Say Schoolyard Superman just kind of dusts them like he did last time out. Say Ottenho gets a little bit better and has kind of a measured 1 or 2 length victory. I think they're in the hunt. Last year, probably not. This year, I do think a race like this, if you win it, you're in the hunt.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is 20 points to the winner, and it's the end of January, so there's plenty of time to pick up some more. And like this year, I think you just need to win a race like this. If it's one of those Chad Browns, I think they're going to get in. So I don't know how serious I would take it. I think it depends on what happens here. Running a mile and eighth, if they look really good running a mile and eighth, obviously that's a good sign as they move forward. I tend to, obviously the breeding looks way better going long for the 6, so we'll see. But I do have the most kind of upside or hope as far as being like legit contender for the 6 here, which is why I'm picking the horse to win as well. So we'll see. But you and I both are on the 6, Ottenho to win the Withers on Saturday. All right, Halterman, let's go over to Gulfstream Park for their. So we do have the Holy Bull. I think was always going to be the main event of the weekend, even if Oaklawn was running. We'll kick things off though earlier in the card. We'll go. Let's see. Let me go one more. No, to the 8th. Let's go to race 8. So we're going to talk about the Swell, which is not a official Derby prep race. We'll go to the Forward Gal, which is an Oaks prep race, and then we'll go to the Holy Bull, of course, for the Derby prep race. So the Swell is going to be race number 8 on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. It's worth $175K, 7 furlongs for those 3-year-olds, of course, and a field of 6, and really it's a very competitive field. Now, Class President is 5-2, a horse that looked very good on debut for Todd Pletcher, but man, that 6 Solitude Dude at 6-5, who else? Safi, who's just red hot right now. He's actually got 3 in the race. What do you think of this field? I mean, a lot as far as odds go, very competitive odds, other than really one horse.
Yeah, it feels to me like the 6 Solitude Dude is going to be pretty tough to catch. And I think that's going to be the major challenge for the 1 Class President here. I like Solitude Dude quite a bit. I think he gets to the front. I don't think he looks back. You kind of look at how the pace sets up. Doesn't seem like there's a lot in it, right? And it kind of feels like, Safi's horse, the 2, or maybe the 3 Epic Summer can press a little bit, but Solitude Dude just kind of looks to be a little bit faster than the rest of them. I was really, impressed at Tampa last time out. I thought he looked extremely good. He was 1-9. He ran like a 1-9 shot, and extra furlong. Maybe that's going to be his demise here, but I don't think so. I think he gets out to the front and takes some gate to wire.
Well, yeah, the race before that he ran 6.5 furlongs and won by 9.5. So. Yeah, I'm with you actually. And I'm hoping the 1 wins. We have the horse in our fantasy league, but I just, from a pace standpoint, this horse is not sniffed losing. Honestly, I'm a little confused of why Class President is in the race. I kind of thought he'd be going longer. Bred to go long, 1 going away on debut for Pletcher. He said even after that race, like at least the quotes were like, "Hey, you're going to probably go to allowance and go to Derby prep with him." And now he ends up in the Swell, which I guess in some ways is a good sign because it's a stakes race. But on the other side, it's cut back to 7 furlongs and not a Derby prep, really. I don't know. It was an odd spot for him. And so I do think longer the better for Class President. He's cutting back. Don't like it. And I think the 6 is just going to be really tough to catch, like you said. I mean, I don't I don't necessarily see the 6 losing here, to be honest.
Yeah, I hear you. I think the 1 is very interesting because we debuted at a mile and is a big win, 3 1/4. And he obviously, I think that was like 2 days before the draft, maybe 3. And so you guys drafted him, and he was on my list for sure. I think he was on everybody's. He beat a couple horses that were pretty hyped in that race. usually when you debut at a mile, it's because you want to go longer. You want to go mile 16th, mile and 8th. I was beyond shocked when I saw him in the 7 furlong race. I thought the Sam F. Davis might be, but then I read Renegades going to the Sam F. Davis. And Class President might be the first one of these Bafferts. He's got a shit ton of them. They just don't have a place for him. So let's run him here.
Yeah.
If he wins, great. But let's just get him another race, and then we'll let all this other stuff kind of unfold, and then we'll figure out a prep for him. He's not a sprinter. He's not bred to be a sprinter. You don't debut sprinters going 1 mile. So to me, it's like they just are trying to find a spot, and this seemed to be where he needed to run right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think he probably needed to run. You know, he just put up a bullet work last work. I think he's probably needs to run somewhere, and like you said, maybe running out of spots. I maybe not an allowance race that was going to like in time. I don't know, you know, but like I kind of told Kevin too. I was like, I'm not like obviously I hope he wins here, but I think the plan for them is to go derby prep, you know, next out regardless, unless he just runs awful. Because I think you know that's the main goal, and it is still only January, so I do think we have time. He looked too good last out. There's nothing about him that last race that you would say, well, we need to cut him back. So it is a very. That's why I'm with you. I was like shocked that I was glad to see him entered. Not the race I expected him to be entered in. So I don't know. If he does it at Bullet, like I said, maybe he's primed up, ready to go. If he comes out and wins here, it's going to show his class. It's going to take a lot to beat that horse on the 6 horse. Past that, you would think he needs to finish second, right? I mean, there's some decent horses in here. There's some decent horses in here for sure that have ran okay, but you would think he needs to run. It needs to be like a hey. If this was longer, he was going to win, but he just needed more room, kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah, I think you said it exactly. And look, I mean, it is not impossible that he wins, right? But it does just kind of feel like, boy, if he wins this one, he either Solitude Dude just didn't run very well, or he could be good. Class President could be really good, which is possible. I mean, that debut was very nice. So, and you know, he debuted at like, I don't know, maybe that was like a week or two after Jackson Hole debuted. And I thought Class President was much better than Jackson Hole.
Yeah.
Now Jackson Hole went on to win and looked great in his next start. But again, it does just kind of feel like, let's get him a race and then let's get it to where it really matters.
So that's so I think that's the point. You and I are both picking the 6 because of the race, but maybe like if you were sitting here, gun to our heads, hey, which horse has a better future for the Kentucky Derby? I think we're both going to say the 1 as of now, just based off upside. So we'll see. This will be a fun race to watch. But yeah, again, the 6 for both Halterman and I. The Forward Gal race number 10. So 2 races later, this is a Kentucky Oaks prep race, 175K, 7 furlongs for the fillies, 3-year-olds. Field of 8 shows up here 9-5 on time girl versus the 4 mythical at 5-2. This is gonna be quite the showdown here.
Yeah, it really is, and I'm very interested to see what happens in this race. This is sometimes this thing can really get weird down at Gulfstream for the 3-year-old fillies. I can't go against Mythical here in this spot. I really, really like this horse. You know, debuted and had 3 straight wins, and then, you know, got beaten the spin away, just went too fast. Came back down here to Gulfstream, won a 7 furlong race, super impressive. Stretched out to a 1.16 last time out and was able to win a race. Now we're back to 7 furlongs, and I just think this is the spot. Like I think she loves going 7 furlongs. I think she's the speed of the speed. I think she gets out there and takes some gate to wire. So I went number 4, Mythical on top. I will say there's a lot of other horses that like to go and that could make things weird, but I think Mythical is going to be able to hold them off.
Yeah, she just loves Gulfstream so much. And, you know, she's 5 for 6 lifetime. Her only loss was in a grade 1 at Saratoga, and really was didn't run well at all that day. But the races she's won, the 5 that she has won, have never been close to losing either. So it's like she's kind of all or nothing. I think if you are going to play her, I don't think you need to mess with, you know, I think you just play her or not, because she's either going to win or she could, like you said, get into a weird speed situation, and then maybe doesn't fire as well. But this distance, man, she is good for her, and I think clearly loves Gulfstream Park. She's 3 for 3 at Gulfstream Park. I wouldn't be surprised if she goes off the favorite versus the 6. I don't know. I think the 6 looked good last out. Is obviously worthy of being a tough opponent, but I don't know. Mythical just being like that local horse. I don't know. I felt like Mythical would be the favorite here.
Yeah, I thought so too. I think One Time Girl, there's some good things about this one too. Won a stakes at Churchill, second and a stakes at Keeneland, 2 wins before that. I think what we're going to see here is the 4 is going to get the lead and the 6 is going to stalk. And then we're either going to see the 6 get her or the 4 kind of take off on her. Right. And I think that's going to be the race in a lot of ways. So I think if you're on the 6, I wouldn't talk you off. And I'm almost with you as well. I think the 4 might be favored by the time they go off, but could be crazy there.
Now I will say this, kind of similar to the last race. I'm with you. I like Mythical here on top to win. I don't like her in the Kentucky Oaks. Right, no. This is an Oaks prep race. I like the 6 way more than I would like the 4 as far as that goes. So it's very similar to the swell that we just talked about. We're kind of going with the speed in these sprint races, but not necessarily with these horses moving forward.
Right. Yeah, absolutely right. And that's kind of the 6 is really seems like Brad to go longer,
like it, yeah.
And the 4, it's very debatable, right? So
it's weird though that 6. I know they're early races in her career. She's ran 4 races as a 2-year-old. But man, they really haven't tried stretching her out yet at all. It's been 6, 6, 6, and she's ran well at all those, and then 6.5, now 7. Like they're taking their sweet time, stretching her out for sure. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm with you. I feel like she's sure. I mean, she's not this time out of an Uncle Mo mare. I mean, gosh, you would think she wants to go longer.
Yeah, it is interesting, and that is the one big difference between this horse and Class President. We talked about in the last race is like we have seen this horse go short and look good, So yeah. I think a much more logical, not that Class President's logical too. Don't get me wrong, but I think this one it's more logical to use because you've seen it, and I do agree it. But you know what? We've seen Not This Time throw out any kind of horse, right? And so maybe they just decided to take that route of sprinting because they didn't think she was quite good enough yet to stretch out or something like that. I don't know. But Not This Time can do just about anything. I mean, when you're throwing turf sprinters that are grade 1 winners and marathon horses on the dirt, I mean, that's pretty amazing. That's what that sire's been able to do.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I hope we see something crazy here. I hope we see this 4 just like blaze and like come and get me. And, this is, like you said, like see what the 6 can do, see if the 6 can get there or not. But for my money, just like the last race, I'm going to be playing Mythical. I do hope we get somewhere in the 5-2 department, but like I said earlier, I still think that she's going to end up going off the favorite, just based off of, she's 5 or 6 lifetime. She's 3 for 3 at Gulfstream. Even though it's Brad Cox on the other one or with, training the other one, I do think that local horse winning by 12, 2 back, winning by 2.5 last time. I think this horse is going to get a lot of steam going into this race. So you and I are both on the 4 Mythical. All right, let's go to the main event here. Race number 12, the Holy Bull Stakes, grade 3, 275K, 1/16 miles, for 3-year-olds. And of course it is a Kentucky Derby prep race, 2010, 642. This is a hell of a race, Halterman. Butane is scratched, of course. It was even, announced that, Baffert couldn't get the horse there with travel. But you do have a hell of a field here. You got Nearly in here at 9-5 is your favorite. Came off that really impressive race last time out at Gulfstream Park. But, man, it's just loaded. Cannoneer for Brad Cox could be a monster. Global Aviator could be the same. Incredible. It's very good for Riley Mott. And then we mentioned Bavario earlier, horse that I actually like a lot here at 8-1. So really, this feels like a very pivotal race for a lot of these horses here.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great race. The Holy Bull, the Fountain of Youth, and the Florida Derby. It's always been Just a hell of a lot of fun, these three races. And so, look, I think it really comes down to a trip in this race. And I think the number 5 Cannoneer is kind of loose on the lead in this spot. And it's a 1.16 mile race, so it will be a short stretch. As far as where they finish, they'll finish at the other finish line. So,
hey, hang on. This is
real. I know, I see it. So
this is real though. This is,
I know.
I just looked it up. He's off the trail.
Yeah. So go ahead and break the news.
Per David Grinning from DRF, Ted Noffey, the 2-year-old champion, is off the Triple Crown Trail due to bone bruising. He'll get 90 days off and hopefully be back during Saratoga.
I mean, it changes absolutely everything.
It changes the whole game.
Everything. Every race is now ultra important. Not that it wasn't already, but now it is of the utmost importance.
Wow. I mean, listen, it's not, we've seen this before, right? Obviously, it took longer. We've always compared him to Forte and remind us of Forte, and that obviously took way longer. We don't even get to see him on the Derby Trail, meaning Ted Noffey, but the same story. It was, hey, this seems like the very clear horse and waiting for anybody to catch him. Well, now we're trying to figure out who the Ted Noffey is. And I don't know, dude. It's fun. It's also insane at the same time.
I think it just makes it, this is crazy. It's going to make it that much more crazy because we've talked already. It's very early in the game, but we've talked already about how he really stands out and we don't have a whole lot underneath him right now. And guess what? That we don't have a whole lot underneath him right now quote that I just said, that's now the horses that are contesting for the Derby because Ted Noffey is out. So it's hard to even know who the favorite might be at this point. Incredibly breaking news out of absolutely nowhere today here. Christopher Maiello, the first to report it here on the comments. So look, I'm glad it happened now and not the day of the Derby. I'll say that. Hey, the Kentucky Derby favorite may be in the Holy Bull if they run well.
And that's just it, dude. That's going to be the story of every week, really, for here on out. It's who is the Ted Noffey, right? And it's going to be, whether it be Nearly here, whether it be Cannoneer. Todd Pletcher's really no. I mean, he's done this before. I'm not saying he's freaking out, but he's also looking for you just mentioned it earlier, where we had he has so many horses this year, so many 3-year-olds. Well, then he's probably looking around. Hey, who is my Ted Noffey now, right? And maybe it is Nearly. Maybe it's one of the other 20 other ones that are still kind of shaping up. But yeah, it's certainly, again, we're learning about this with you guys. Also, why you don't bet Derby futures on favorites is another good example of that. But crazy news and back to our regular scheduled programming now. Let's talk about the Holy Bull.
Well, anyway, as I was talking about Cannoneer, probably nobody was listening because of what was happening. But yes, I do like Cannoneer.
Well, to be fair, when he said that, I'm like, I mean, Christopher, he jokes around and stuff in here. I'm like, what's kind of weird to say in here right now? And I thought maybe because we're talking about Nearly, maybe in some weird way, it's like Nearly's the new horse. You know what I mean? Like maybe he's new horse. So I'm like, let me just get on Twitter real quick and type in Ted Noffey. No, he was right. I'll never doubt you again, Christopher. I'm sorry.
I was typing on Google as I was talking because I was like, because one thing I've learned, and somebody, I don't remember who it was, but it's a regular commenter said something like that one time. And it was about, I don't even know what it was, but my dad was on air with it. It was my dad and they made a comment about a horse and my dad read it and it wasn't true. And I was like, I told him after the program, I said, don't do that because sometimes people just write stuff and it's not true. They're trying to be funny or whatever. But I was with you. If it was somebody else, I probably wouldn't have thought anything of it. But when Christopher said it, I thought, okay, he's not sitting here trying to get a laugh out of somebody, So I was typing. Yeah. Thanks for passing along. And wow, what a story. And how fun is it now? I mean, you never. Hopefully the horse is fine. I guess bone bruising is not that big a deal, really, in the long term. But I almost think this makes it 10 times more fun now. So
Well, yeah, I mean, because it's always going to be like, hey, who's the next, or who is the horse that you can beat Ted Nafi? Now you're like, okay, anybody can win the Derby now. I mean, because if it is going through him, well, it's not anymore. It and we've already talked about. I even talking to Paul the other day. It was like, boy, I can't. I think it was not this past weekend, weekend before, and it was like, boy, if anything, these weekends show us makes me more excited to bet Ted Nafi at the Derby. Oops.
not so much. Wow. I mean, well, anyway, Cannoneer, I think, is going to take this field gate to wire in the Holy Bull. I think he looks the lone speed to me. It's a short stretch. Cannoneer gate to wire. That's kind of at first look. That's what jumped out to me.
Cannoneer. Who are we talking about here? Oh, what race is this? I forgot. Yeah, I'm excited to see Cannoneer here. Really, I think he could be very. I think he could be special. And really, the story of this race is there's a few in here like Incredible, even Global Aviator, who is coming straight out of main special weight back in November. Even Cannoneer back in November. I mean, Nearly is the fresh horse. I mean, Bavario, that I like a decent amount here. I am going to put this horse on top because of the value standpoint. Hasn't raced since October, and so the question mark here is that who of these horses that are making their 3-year-old debut is gonna fire, because we know one thing. Nearly is he's primed up. Like he's coming in off a very big performance, a 97 buyer that day, beating Confessional, who was the favorite of that race. Nearly was not, and is definitely bred to go long, and just coming in off a bullet workout. Like, to me, this horse is primed up and ready to go. But can any of these horses outdo him? Was that last race a little too good? Like, was it, he obviously really ran well. What's going to happen this next time? How good will he do going a little bit longer here? So there's some question marks with a bunch of these horses, good horses, I'll say, in the field.
Yes, and let's start with Nearly, because I claim Nearly in the fantasy league, and I'm like everybody else. I have eyes, and that was a very good performance. I am a little nervous that it might have been a fluke, and I'm not calling it that. I'm just saying I'm nervous because his first race kind of draw a line through it. He just things didn't work out. Okay, his second race was good enough, right? 1 by 9.25, pretty good speed figure, nothing crazy, but pretty good. He ran like way better than he did in the second race when he ran the third time, like a ton better. It was a really short field. It was going 7 furlongs. Does it equate today in a stakes race going a mile 16? That is my worry about him. I'm just not sure. I hope so. And I'll have him on tickets. I just worry that may have been a little phony.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned to you before the show, a horse that we drafted in Confessional, now obviously long gone off the team, but like, how good, maybe if Nearly goes and wins here by 5, it's like, oh, Confessional is pretty good, just was beat, maybe the Derby favorite now. So like, we don't know. Like, Nearly could, like, he looked really good, but again, you never know until they run this race. Cannoneer, to me, is a horse that is probably, I mean, he was like almost like what, $1.7 million horse, something like that. Mm-hmm. As debut was not great. Next race was really great for, it was just really awesome. That next race is bred to be just an absolute monster, clearly. So I'm really excited what Cannoneer can do. But yeah, Bavaro for me is a horse that is going to need to step up, is a New York bred. There's lots of things to not like here, but I like the fact that Safi thinks enough of this horse to run here versus running what clearly would have been an easier spot over at Aqueduct. And so this is, he's been better with each start. Going a little longer, I think, will be okay, and I think the pace setup will be good enough. And so, listen, he's going to have to improve big time to compete with these horses. But I would say the rest of them will have to as well to win this thing. So give me the value, and that is Bavaro in a race that I feel like we have a lot of unknowns.
I think it's a really good pick. I think he has the first race for me was kind of okay, good, but I didn't really think about like Derby. The second race was really good. It's just I know it's a New York bred stakes, but that second race was good, and that was stretching out. And now we're going to go a little bit further. I think this horse can run long. Maybe not. Maybe it's not a mile and a quarter, but I think a mile and 16 is going to be fine for this horse. So,
dude, that second race was if you guys haven't, go watch that replay. And again, I know it's state bred, take it with a grain of salt, but this horse is bottled up on the rail, has nowhere to go, has to back off, swings out wide. Chases down. Like I said, that's why I like 4th and 1, decent amount. Goes and has to swing outside, rally, and then runs off, and wins going away pretty easily, really, but made it look pretty tough there at midway through the race. And so I do think the horse has a lot of upside, and it's like, let's just not, Saffy Joseph, whatever he's doing, whatever, it's working. So, you got T-Gaff aboard. I think this horse will be, will at least make a good run. Is he good enough? I don't know.
Well, look,
in another situation, I don't know how much I love this horse Derby wise, but for this race, maybe the timing is right, and to beat a couple of these big dogs who are still maybe figuring it out.
Yeah, I think it's a good, like I said, you said it best. I think you're getting that price, and if you're just kind of a little questionable about some horses, that one makes sense. I mean, he in like I said, I'm with you. The race last time out, I kind of said to myself, that's kind of what you want to see. Like, that was really good. I don't care that he's a New York bred taking on New York bred company. You could tell he was a good horse when that happened. We got to talk about one. This is the one I'm fascinated to see. I'm not particularly fascinated to bet in this race specifically, but the number 1 Incredible, I'm very interested to just see how he runs in this race. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, he's another one that I'm just totally baffled on what to do with. If he wins pretty easily, I wouldn't be surprised. If he doesn't run well, I'm not going to really be surprised either. He debuted, didn't run great, broke the maiden the next time out, then ran mile 16th in that street sense at Churchill Downs and looked pretty damn good doing it. It looked like a professional, really, at that. It hasn't really been like, it's never been like a very, it was 4-1 that day. Never bet that's a favorite on debut, but that's it. Yeah, I mean, he's got some question marks for sure. They all do, but if this horse is kind of dead on the board at 9-2, 4-1, anywhere in that department, like, I think there's some value there, because there's one thing we do know, and the horse going this long will do just fine. And I thought it looked pretty good on that last race. But, each race has gotten better than the last, so you got to assume the horse is going to run well. The biggest question is which of these horses of the big dogs, the ones like the Incredible, like I mentioned earlier, because they're all coming off fairly long layoffs other than Nearly.
Yeah, exactly. And I think with it, I think with Incredible, I think if he wins this race, I think we got a serious horse. He just feels to me like the classic, let's get him an out. Let's get him a race under his belt this year. He's really going to get better when there's not a short stretch. And maybe when we have a mile and an 1/8 instead of a mile and a 16th, even though I know he wanted a mile and 16th, but that's a very long stretch at Churchill versus kind of a different configuration here. And I think there's a lot better horses here, let's be clear, than what he beat last time out. I just feel like kind of almost like Sovereignty last year. When you saw him win on a short stretch at Gulfstream, you're like, damn, he's really good. Do you see that with Incredible? If he wins here, it's like, man, maybe he is really good. So I kind of think he's the classic run up for third, maybe second. And you're like, okay, next out, we're going to see. But I am very unsure of, okay, was that just a weak bunch in the street sense and he's not that good? Or is he going to be kind of serious? So I'm very interested to see how he runs here.
What about Global Aviator? What do you think of this one? This is a horse that's coming in just off one race, maiden special weight, Gulfstream Park back in November, but did it pretty nicely. Got a big number for that race and has been off since. This is a big ask going straight from maiden special weight off a layoff to the Holy Bull, but you're getting 5-1 on the horse, which is probably a little too low to be honest. But looked really good doing it.
I'm kind of waiting and seeing. I think he might be a little bit over his head here. I don't know that he really wants to go 2 turns. Pedigree's questionable for it. Not impossible, but questionable. I don't love him in this spot. If you're picking him, don't let me talk you off of him. I'm not like dead set against him. I just don't think this is a real great spot for him. I think there's some really good ones in this race. And I just think that there's too many question marks for me to put him on top in this spot.
This is a really fun race. The Fountain of Youth obviously is, to me, where it really gets going at Gulfstream Park, and then of course the Florida Derby. But this year, especially with the news that just broke a couple minutes ago with Ted Naffy, there's a more than reasonable chance that you could be looking at. I think the 5 or the 7 Cannoneer or Nearly are certainly horses that could be Derby favorites. Potentially. Now, I know that's a big thing to throw out there at the end of January, but they have the look of a horse that could be that. Didn't it kind of feel like like the Derby could have like 4 Pletchers, 3 Brad Coxes, maybe a couple Chad Browns. Like it just there's each of those barns have. Bob Baffert really hasn't unleashed much. Hopefully he does this weekend, but like it feels like there's going to be multiple trainers in the Derby that are going to have multiple horses.
Yeah, it does feel that way for sure. And Pletcher, obviously loses Ted Naffy today, but it does certainly feel like he's got a bunch like ready to run in all these preps, and then we'll figure it out last prep round. And then here we go with 3 or 4 for sure. It feels like that kind of year once again for Pletcher and for Chad Brown. I mean, Chad's got some good ones right now as well. Canaletto, we haven't even talked about it. How good was he? And you got Paladin sitting there. So, but again, I mean, I think the overarching view of the Kentucky Derby has changed dramatically in the last 15 minutes since we've been on the air. So, it does feel like though these big barns are loaded.
All right. It's going to be a very pivotal race, but even more so now than it was going into the podcast. But Holy Bull on Saturday. What time does this go off at?
Looks like about 5:45 local time there at the Gulfstream.
So 5:45 Eastern. We'll see what's going to happen here. Halterman is going Cannoneer. Give me a little bit of a long shot here of the 8 Bravaro at 8-1. One other race. Well, you know what? Let's do it this way. Those are the preps. We'll go through a couple of these updates, and I'll mention the Santa Anita race. I'll do that.
Yeah. Sounds good, and we can do an overarching kind of what this means with Ted Naffy out as well. So that's definitely the big time, the biggest story we've had this year. That is for sure.
Yeah, it's let's see. I think it's already up on I think John sent us the link. I'll see if I can pull it up here. Yeah, that's wild, man. I mean, again, it's not shocking, and it's in a way like it happens a lot, and we kind of had we've seen it before with Forte, like I said, but at the same time, you're holding your breath, and you obviously don't want this to happen, and it's pretty early, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
And then the biggest thing is it doesn't seem like it's anything major. It's more just precautionary, and looks like he said, this is all from DRF, David Grinning. I wasn't happy the way he was moving the last couple of days. Sitting in the evaluation, he's got some bone bruising. We're going to go 90 days off. It's frustrating, it's disappointing, but we have to do the right thing by the horse. So, again, nothing. His horse will probably win the Travers later this year, but he's not going to win the Derby.
Boy, it just brings horses like Canaletto and Chief Wallaby and, horses that it's like, yeah, they're probably not going to get there quick enough to beat a nice seasoned horse like Ted Nafi. And now you're just looking around going, who is a nice, like seasoned horse? Like Litmus Test, I guess, would be. You realize that's the top 2 now from the Breeders' Cup Juvenile that are out. So
Yep.
Litmus Test, Brandt. I mean, there isn't a seasoned horse. These horses can jump up now. They don't have to make up a ton of ground on. So it is absolutely wide freaking open, the most wide open it's ever been, sitting here January 29th right now after this.
And if there was ever a year, like, and we see it some where they're going to run, these horses are going to run their very best race on the Derby, and that's and that's going to be their peak race. And this feels like a year where a horse could sneak in kind of a late bloomer and then get to the Derby, and then of course run the big race because you don't have to face Ted Nafi. Because I mean, no matter what you thought of Ted Nafi, if you thought he couldn't be beat or would be beat or whatever, like he was very, very, like he was the classiest horse, and he was going to get to the Derby, and he was going to be tough to beat because he's classy as shit, and he's trained by Todd Pletcher.
Mm-hmm.
Was he good enough to win? We'll never know. But now you don't have that. Now it's going to be wide open. All right, Derby preps are over, but let's look a little bit of the updates. Obviously, the biggest update coming live while we were talking about the Holy Bull, and that is, of course, Ted Nafi being off the trail. If you go to drf.com, Ted Nafi off the Derby trail with bone bruising, that article from David Grinning is up there, so you guys can read more about it over there. But Halterman, I guess I'll start with that. We'll talk a little bit about some updates, what's from last weekend and maybe moving forward a little bit. But I mean, it's hard to, we talked a little bit about it a second ago, but it's really hard to figure out or to, this is massive news for the Derby trail.
Yeah, it is massive news, and it just makes things completely wide open. He definitely stood out from a class standpoint and from a speed figure standpoint, for the most part. Just massive breaking news here, and it came early. We're sitting here before the third to last round of preps. Basically, they're going to start this weekend and next, so comes early, and. Who is the Kentucky favorite, or who's the Kentucky Derby favorite right now after this news? Because he was the answer, whether you wanted to back him or not, he was the answer. Who's the favorite? Is Paladin the favorite now for Chad Brown? Who is it?
You got me, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me pull up I know he was a pretty heavy favorite each of the, as far as the individual horses go, is on the future.
Jeff Bauer says Paladin, and I think it would be Paladin would probably be the second choice. Just to kind of, and again, I like the horse a lot. Don't get me wrong, but it's January 29th, and the favorite for the Kentucky Derby, I think the highest buyer he has is an 86. And I know buyers aren't the end all be all, but that is the definition of this is completely wide open now.
Let's see. Looks like the favorite was, all others was 4-1.
Okay.
Paladin was 10-1.
Okay.
Further Ado was 10-1. Again, this is from the last one. Cannoneer 15-1. So he certainly could become a favorite, at least after this weekend.
Yeah.
If he were to run huge. Incredible was 30-1. Litmus Test was 20-1. Ted Nafi was 6-1. So as comparison, 6-1 on Ted Nafi versus 10-1 on couple of these other ones. So yeah, I think now it turns to Paladin, it turns to Further Ado, and honestly, you'd be sitting here looking at after this weekend that Chad Brown's got the 1 and 2 Derby favorites. It would be. I mean, that's very likely.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, again, I have nothing. I like Paladin quite a bit, but again, his resume is very, very light for a Kentucky Derby favorite.
Yeah.
At this point in time, January 29th, right? So it's really just going to be fascinating to see how this shakes out now. And it really just every little step now is so vital and so important. And like I said, horses like Canaletto, it's like he's so much in the game now, so much more in the game than he was.
I mean, listen, it's very rare that you get kind of this kind of sort of breaking news while we're live. It happened obviously, and so it's taken me like I'm just starting to kind of digest this a little bit. It's yeah, each race of these is I don't know. I mean, they're always important. Now they're way more important. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me of the year Life Was Good got hurt. That was a lot later. Maybe in like February when he got injured, or maybe March. But yeah, it's kind of what it feels like to me. I text a few people, and they're like, "Man, it feels like the year Forte got hurt. It was earlier, or sorry, it was a lot later. Obviously, in the year it was the week of the Derby, but it's like, man, he got hurt, and it just opened things up completely."
All right. So way more to talk about with the implications of Ted Nafi, but let's talk about a little bit of the updates from over the weekend. Up, horses trending up, horses trending down. Obviously, the big race of the weekend that we talked about, as far as like up and coming horses, was that maiden special weight at Gulfstream the next day. You were able to go to this race as well. You were still there. And one of the horses, that we were excited to see, Hitman Creek, did scratch. That was a disappointment. That had a lot of hype going into this race. But you did have the Spartacus versus Canaletto. Both of them were kind of back and forth as far as favoritism goes. Canaletto went off as slight favorite, and boy, did he run like a slight favorite. He ran like a huge favorite. Canaletto just dusted the field. It looked close for half a second. Spartacus threw in the towel, and Canaletto won by 8 lengths going away. This horse really wowed. And once again, who else? Chad Brown. This horse, there's 3 now that we've just talked about in the last 3 minutes that he has going. Obviously, you would think going to the Derby Trail now.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one could not have been any more impressive. We were in the paddock. We were watching Spartacus, obviously, and we were also watching Fort Canaletto. Those are the two that you're kind of you wanted to see. And Spartacus looked good, like in the flesh. I thought there's nothing wrong with how he looked. Canaletto looked a lot better. And we were talking to Ryan Stillman because him and John have Spartacus, and I kind of told him, I'm like, I don't like your chances in this race. Canaletto just looks like a monster. He just was jumping out of his skin, basically. So I thought the move around the turn was really impressive, where he just kind of circled, and then he really put the icing on the cake when they kind of gave him 1 or 2 reminders, and he took off. And he dusted that group. He galloped out extremely well. That race was a 1-turn mile. The way he galloped out, dude, I don't really think going long is going to be a problem for this horse. It's just a matter of how quick can we get him developed, right? I could not have been more impressed. He got an 89 buyer, and I actually like that. I like when a horse, I don't want him to get 100 buyer on debut, build to it. And I think that's what Chad Brown's going to try to do. So I love the performance. That your guess is as good as mine. After these maidens do it, that sometimes they don't do a thing. Sometimes they're incredibly good and they turn out to be great horses. We'll see. Time will tell, but his debut couldn't have been any better.
Well, I think with the news we just received, not that it's going to change anybody's training, but it certainly makes it a little less pressured, and like, hey, let's get the horse. Like, we don't need to beat, to get to the Derby in order to beat, Ted Nafi, because he's not there. Like, let's get to the horse to the Derby at some, and try to get him there the way we want to get him there. And there's really still a lot of time to do that. So I don't know. He looked, obviously we were, when we were claiming this way, you couldn't claim Spartacus, he was already owned, but me and Kevin were between Canaletto and Hickman Creek, and really, couldn't cut either way. And then, so of course, Hickman scratches, then the one we were going to, it's just like, of course we did, that happened. But even past that, you're like, dude, this horse is awesome. Like, Canaletto glad Hickman Creek didn't run because he would have gotten killed by that horse. That this horse looks like, man, like again, it seems Chad Brown's loaded.
Yeah.
This is I think he was sold for $1 million. He's got the connections. He's bred impeccably. He obviously backed it up on the track. Yeah, he's gonna be a force for sure.
Yeah, if he can just kind of stay on track and develop, he looks to be the goods. There's no doubt about it. And again, we were standing, a little bit up from the finish line, and when he came by us, he was hauling ass. Like he looked really good, and we had stood there for a few other races, and it's when you see a horse that they're going to win, but maybe they're not finishing, that great or whatever. Canaletto looked like a beast running by there, right? So he still looked a little green. I thought on the turn he was a little green here or there, but boy, he straightened up when they asked him. So we'll see. It's gonna be very fascinating to see him develop.
All right, the another race. This is like I basically had 3 horses from this race. So the fallers would be Hickman Creek, who scratched, and obviously you're already behind the ball a little bit starting this late, and then of course not running it. So we'll see what happens there, what the reason was. But obviously stock falls a little bit there. Spartacus certainly would as well. Canaletto was a riser for me, and then the horse that you claimed, which was a great claim, kind of 6-speed. I mean, a horse that you kind of claimed like, hey, like this should be easy, maybe not easy points, but the possibility of getting some points here. But then ran, you're like, kind of like, damn, that horse looked pretty good. Like maybe that horse is like semi decent. So what do you think of 6-speed over at UAE?
Oh, I love that he won. That's for sure. He ran really well again. That's 2 races in a row where he ran well. He did exactly what he's supposed to do. He's got tremendous breeding. A son of Not This Time out of Medaglia d'Oro mare. I mean, if that horse is in Kentucky or Florida or Oakland, wherever, and he's got a big name trainer, I mean, we're going crazy over him. There's no doubt about it. You just don't know how it translates. And that's all that it comes down to. You don't know what's going on over there or how that's going to translate to the United States or how he's going to ship or all that stuff. To be quite honest, I tried to win the shake for Canaletto this week in the fantasy league, and 6-speed was the one I was dropping. So it's not like I'm over the moon about him, right? But I will say this: to me, like he's not doing anything wrong, and so so one of these years before we die, I do think somebody's going to come over from Dubai and win it. I don't really think it's going to be 6-speed, but you know what? It might now because you didn't have to beat Ted Nafi, so maybe this is the one. I don't know, but I was impressed. I thought he ran very well.
Yeah, like you said, he did what he's supposed to do, and he did it pretty professionally, I thought.
Yeah.
Any other horses that from the weekend that you wanted to point out before we move on to this weekend?
No, nothing else. There really was not a lot going on for the 3-year-olds last week.
Yeah, all the focus was for the most part on Saturday, especially on Pegasus, and then of course that big maiden special weight was on Sunday. Speaking of maiden special weights, this is on Saturday. This coming Saturday at Santa Anita. Bob Baffert releasing a few, 3 to be exact, at least on paper, horses out of his barn. It's a pretty competitive race. I mean, as far as the odds go. Patente, a horse that we claimed a while back, and then we claimed another one. That's what I told Kevin. It's like, if we can't get Canaletto, let's at least try to get one of these Baffert horses. And of course, it'll probably be the third Baffert that wins the race. But Crude Velocity is the favorite here. So I do think, obviously it seems like those are the 2, but it's definitely, you would think of, both those horses are very well bred. Patente is extremely well bred. And, you would think if one of these horses runs off the screen for Baffert, we're likely going to see the horse, maybe the San Felipe next out.
Well, yeah, I hate to be like just on repeat here, but the Kentucky Derby future wager favorite as of right now has a high buyer of 86. So every race means the world. And so, yeah, if one of these horses can run really well, and to be very honest, I have no idea if it's going to be Crude Velocity or Potente or, I don't know which ones. They both look very similar to me when you watch them. So, and you look at the breeding and the workouts and all that stuff, they all look very similar. Hernandez is on Crude Velocity, but Hernandez was scheduled to ride at Oaklawn. I wonder if they just entered here like Hernandez as a backup, maybe, and that maybe Kamara was one that they put the good, or he's on the good one because they thought Hernandez would be gone and they'd have to replace him. I don't know. It makes it very confusing. So I watched the workouts. They've worked. I think one of them worked with Christopherson, and I did like Christopherson a little better in the work, but I also don't really give a shit about workouts, so it's kind of meaningless for me to watch them. I think Potente's bred a lot better than Crude Velocity. That's kind of my thought.
Potente is bred, amazingly well.
Yeah.
This horse was sold for $2.4 million. Which I know doesn't always mean anything, but obviously had a lot of hopes from the start. Into Mischief by an Austin McGinn mare, obviously bred. Yeah, this is the horse that has been working out with Christopherson. Crude Velocity was actually out of the three in the race is the one that was sold for the least amount. I think it was like $250K. Not bred crazy, but I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe set some sort of record for at the auctions for like their the speed, like how what was it Kevin told me. But yeah, and I looked at the last workout. The workout was awesome, but again, I don't know, with these workouts for these horses, but the horse Crude Velocity tied the OBS sales record time, so whatever that so whatever that means for you, but that is something. And so I don't know, but I do feel like, especially this year, but I think it's like this way of any year with Bob Baffert, if you can figure out which ones he's going to get there, he knows how to get these young horses to the Derby. So, taking a shot with at least maybe one of them. Maybe they run 1-2 and they or dead heat together, like 10 lengths ahead of everybody, and they're both going to Derby preps after this. I don't know, but I do think one of those horses will come out of this race looking pretty good.
Yeah, we'll see what happens on it. It's a very fascinating race, and it's about that time period this week, next week, maybe the next, that kind of 2-3 week stretch where Baffert tends to debut one or two that are really good. So, I mean, it could be one of these two. There's no doubt about it. They both look like they could win first out. Last I was talking about, I don't really care about works or really, take much into them. I probably had no less than 5 people, I would say, text me saying how much they're loving the way Ted Nafi is working. And now he's off the trail and Todd Pletcher's on DRF saying, I didn't like how he was moving. Right. So it's like, I just think it's all a bunch of bullshit.
Oh, shit.
It's just like I don't know how many people also told me, oh, Life and Times, Jesus, look at this work, and he ran like shit. So I don't know.
At the end of the day, the people that are telling, unless it's like, Bass or something texting you or whatever, where you're like, no, he's not, by the way.
No,
but it's just a bunch of us. We don't know, right? Looks good, but shit. I could see a dog running around my yard. Like, that horse could probably win a race. That horse looks pretty fast. It's like, I don't know, maybe I think.
Yeah.
So it's at the end of the day, you never know, and it kind of goes back to like that year with Forte. Whenever everyone kept saying there's something wrong, there's something, like he's not going to run. Like, I'm hearing all this stuff. And then you would see interviews with Pletcher. He's looking great. He's perfect right now. I can't, exactly how I want it. And you're just like, what is happening? And then a day later, oh, he's scratched. Like, of course he is. So, at the end of the day, it tends to work itself out, but you just can't listen to too much of the bullshit. But
right.
So that's a look at the weekend racing, guys. As far as the Kentucky Derby goes, obviously, with the news of Ted Nafi being out, the field became even more wide open, and we'll see. Obviously, main special weights, these next couple of weeks, it's like you said, Halterman, these are going to be very key races for some of these really early horses to get to the Derby and still have time to develop and get to the Derby. So we'll see what happens this weekend. Up to the Mark was lame, and then he was You
remember that?
Oh yeah. Like, he may be like, he's gonna be like, there's no way the vets are gonna pass him.
And
he's not going to even get in the race.
And he won a grade 1 at Keeneland, and then he went on to go second in the Breeders' Cup turf and lost to a freaking monster. Yeah. Yep.
I can't tell you how many times we've heard, when we're at the track and the jabbering of there's just I've heard that they don't even think the vets will pass. Like this horse has got so many injuries glued together.
Yep.
And then goes out and wins the grade 1. He was like, well, all right. Yep. I mean, maybe he is, but he still won. Yeah. So just use your eyes, use your brain. Sometimes when that happens, if it it's like if it looks right and feels right, and you think the horse looks good on, it's like, hey, I think the horse looks good to me. He's entered. I'm gonna run. I'm gonna bet him. Like, don't listen to that bullshit.
Yep.
Because that's at the end of the day, that's what it is. Now, if the trainer himself, there's times, right? Like Pletcher saying, hey, we didn't know what the hell Fierce was gonna do, and I believe that. But there's other times where you talk to trainers like, this horse, Kelly will tell you something like, this horse is like not great, whatever. You're like, okay. Or, yeah, this horse probably can't lose. All right. Like sometimes it makes sense. But when they say random shit about injuries and this horse, whatever, like, and it's not the trainer, it's not the person, like, we're literally working with the horse. At the end of the day, it's just noise.
Yep. I would even go as far to say there's
certainly some trainers,
maybe 3 trainers I would actually listen to. Kelly would be one.
Yep.
Maybe Bill Mott. I don't think he lies. Other than that, I don't.
You mean you wouldn't listen to some of these guys?
No.
All right, guys, that's all time for us. Make sure you go to the website at racingdudes.com. Check out more of our picks and content. Obviously, we just touched on the races that are happening this weekend. So if you want free picks for every race running around the country, make sure you go to racingdudes.com. We got free picks for every track, every race from every track. So make sure you go over to the website at racingdudes.com. We're on Twitter at racing_dudes, Instagram, Facebook. Obviously, follow along there if you want some more information on the Ted Nafi and anything that might come up with that. You can follow all episodes of Blinkers Off by just checking out our podcast page on the website, Apple Podcasts. Go to YouTube, hit that like, subscribe, and notification. We do the podcast live here as well. So if you want to tune in live or if you want to watch the replays and see mine and Halterman's faces, which is always a big bonus for most people, you can do that over on YouTube. And obviously, Halterman's got all kinds of content out there as well, previewing the Withers, previewing the Holy Bull, Kentucky Derby Trail, Fantasy League stuff, anything you want. Really, if you like Halterman, I would subscribe because his face is all over the YouTube channel.
This is true. This is definitely true. We'll have 4 new videos out next week too, because we're gonna have 3 preps and the Kentucky Derby update plus the shake for however many horses we're gonna have next week as well. I mean, I keep thinking we're gonna have huge shakes, and then it's only 5 or 6 teams I feel like understand how to play this year. So congratulations, though, you are one of them at least.
Well, I still have the same chance of hitting any of those horses as the ones that don't put claims in, apparently, because we always are one spin away. Like, we're always one of those spaces away every damn time. It just slams the brakes right when it gets close to us.
I know. I was really mad that I did not win this one last week.
Yeah.
Really
I don't know.
mad.
I had a feeling. I don't know. I had a feeling. I was like, maybe we'll get this. Like the gods will be in our favor because we were going to claim this one. And we were between these, and now we did. And now we're going to get them. Like, no. Paul. But yeah, Paul knows how to play the game. I don't understand. Like, there's no in this year. Like, you can't tell me that there's 12 teams, right? That 6 other teams have horses 5 horses each team that just cannot be dropped. When you see that horse's performance, I don't know. It's very. I think we've been in every claim every week.
I thought it would be an 11-way shake. The only team I thought wouldn't do it is Shoddy and Davy because they legitimate have 5 horses. They're getting ready to run. I mean, you could make an argument for it, but it's like, yeah, I could see they kind of want to see how they do, right? Some of these other ones, it's just like you got horses on these teams that haven't worked this year. It's like, what are you doing? You pick them up next week if you want them back. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I hope they keep playing like this, though. That's
the thing. Like that, and I don't want to give away the secrets here, but not that I know the secrets. But like, so like we and Kevin have talked about. It's like, hey, some of these horses that aren't good right now, like it doesn't mean we can't get them again. we can drop them and let them sit out on the waivers until we're ready to pick them back up, and so it's like you're almost looking at it like you can have 6 spots, and we have been able to now it hasn't gone well. I'm not gonna act like it has, but we've been able to every weekend have at least one horse running every weekend. Now, again, we're due, but it gives you a shot to have that horse, right? And I mean, if you have anyone sitting stagnant on your team, now I'm with you on Shoddy's team. So like if they're all about to run, then you want to see what you got. But if there's any horse that hasn't worked or has ran a race and didn't look good and hasn't worked since, what are you waiting on? Because it's not like the other 10 teams are itching to wait for you to drop that horse so they can go claim them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like we're all waiting for Spartacus to be dropped so we can go claim that horse now.
Well, and to be fair, they know they're claiming, John and Ryan.
No, I'm not talking about them in particular. I'm just saying like and that's just one example.
Yeah.
Because it's like they know that, hey, and if they want to go get that horse again, they can.
So Double D's, for example, then they're in their head. They've got a very strong team. They have a horse named Local Knowledge who hasn't worked since November. And they have White Tiger who just ran second to last. Like, you're telling me you think Local Knowledge and White Tiger are more valuable than Canaletto? I mean, how? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like Pedlo Manlo, they have Mr. AP. They've literally said he's not running. And you'd rather have him than Canaletto. Englishman finally had his first work. They have a horse named Newton who hadn't even started yet. It's like, what are we doing?
Is Manlo, are you still in the chat? Because we'd love an explanation on that one.
Whatever explanation you give is not right. I'm just going to say that. I mean, Geist, Big Dom. You think Big Dom's better? Chip Honcho. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you keep him. Dan has a Boss Dylan. He's still a maiden. Dan has Remember Mamba, who's on the turf, ran on the turf again. There's no plans for the dirt, and he'd rather have him than Canaletto. I mean, I hope they keep playing like this.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, even if Canaletto isn't a Derby winner, which let's be honest, he probably isn't. I mean, maybe he is, but you never know. Point is, maybe he finishes second in a 50-point race or whatever, and that's the difference of finishing second and third or first and second or whatever. Even if you have a good team, like those points are so critical, and it does cost 0 points to claim. So what's it hurt?
That's what I was going to say. Even if he does jack shit, he's got a better chance of doing something than Remember Mamba. And guess what? You can just drop him again.
Yeah.
I literally was going to drop a prep winner for Canaletto.
And if you like, if you like Remember Mamba that much, guess what? No other team wants him.
No.
So pick him up or drop him, pick up Canaletto. And then if the next race he runs like shit, well, go pick up your horse. Go pick up Mamba next time,
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt. I guess I don't know if are they thinking like, hey, like, well, are the bonus points for the Derby trail type stuff, are those weighing too heavy on some of these people's their minds?
Yeah, like, okay, for example, like Paladin, Desert Gate, Courting, those are 3 drafted horses. I kind of want to keep them until they at least run. So yeah, and Incredible, Liberty National, this is Dan's team, even Jackson Hole. Yeah, I mean, you probably want to keep a hold of them because of the bonus, but Boss Dylan is not going to be in those races, and neither is Remember Mamba. So you know what I mean? Like, you kind of just gotta cut ties with some of them. And like I said, I get you want to hold on to some draft picks, but when they're not working and they're not running, I don't know what you're thinking, really. But hey, could backfire on me. Maybe Mr. AP magically makes it to one of these Kentucky Derby prep races, even though they said he's not running on the Kentucky Derby trail. Maybe he runs on it anyway, and he'll get him the points to win. Who knows? Hopefully, like I said, hopefully they keep playing like this because it's nice.
Maybe the turf horse ends up running a turf way and wins the prep over there, and next thing you know is running in the Derby, and then you look like an idiot. So
yep. But like you, for example, you guys are in 5th, and you guys are. I mean, it's been a shit show. But I mean, it has. Like, you guys aren't. They're either not running a step or they scratch. Or
It's awful. It's like couldn't even fathom how bad it's been.
but you're in fifth because you are getting points here and there because you're trying to do it, and like eventually you're going to hit on one.
Exactly.
And you're going to be in okay shape, right? But I don't know. Whatever. Just let them do what they want. That's
the thought process. It's like, okay, Rancho ran like shit the first time, but that was a first round claim or draft pick. So you're like, we're keeping him at least for one more because it's too valuable to drop if he does turn it around. And then even like the whatever that one horse, Silent Tactic or whatever. It's like, okay, well, he ran well, and if he can manage to get to the Derby, that's bonus points, right? I think it's plausible. The other ones are like, hey, when we look at that horse, like, is that horse going? Can that horse go to the Derby, run in the dirt? It's like probably not. Well, what are we doing with him then? You know, let's move. Let's just churn and burn, baby, churn and burn. And yeah, it's been bad luck with the claims for sure. But yeah, you got to like that's how you eventually will hit on one with this field with this crop. You know, so
exactly.
Yeah. Brant back now. Brant.
All right.
Maybe he's the class of the field now.
Well, he is the
kind of
highest
right?
finisher of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, if I could speak. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, but he is the technical winner now, the active winner. So
yeah, that's right. Baffert ran one too. Him and Lippis test.
That's right, because the other horses aren't going to show up. And if you look at it that way, there you go. So I don't know. We'll see. The picture is wide open, guys, and it's going to be a really fun next couple of months as we start to figure out which horses are going to make the gate and which horses aren't. So obviously all this could be bullshit, and who cares? It is the end of January, so we have lots of time left. Big racing weekend, really every weekend moving forward now that the Pegasus is done. So stay tuned. Dudes Who Bet Sports that you guys were on yesterday, was it yesterday, day before, talking about Super Bowl. And then Magic Mike show will be on, I never know, today or tomorrow. It's maybe or maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe not. Yep.
You never know. I saw one. It's like, hey, you're back. I didn't know. And I was like, oh, I didn't know they left. You know, like, I guess they missed a week. But yeah. All right, that's gonna do it for us. Halterman, who do you guys? Seattle is at the play in the Super Bowl. Is that just a little spoiler?
I'm having a hard time not thinking Seattle should win that fairly easily. And I almost like, is it too easy? You know what I mean? Sometimes it's like that, but I just don't. I don't think it'll be much of a game.
I keep going back. Like, am I underthinking it? I guess is a better way to put it. Like, just in like not and this is coming from someone I've loved the Patriots all season. Like, I've loved them throughout the playoffs. I've made money on the playoffs. All like with them. And then I got to this, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Don't think so. Not here. I just think Seattle. Like, the thing of Seattle, that it's not their defense, which obviously is very, very good. It's their offense is very, very good too, and they just don't have a lot of weaknesses. They got good special teams. They just are kind of across the board very, very tough. Now, I think the Patriots have some advantage, a little bit of advantage maybe from a coaching aspect. You got some guys that have been there, big game, the Super Bowl, obviously Vrabel and Josh, been there with the Patriots, but I don't. At the end of the day, I think very highly of Seattle's coach as well, and yeah, I think they'll be ready to go. So I don't know. I like Seattle too. I like Seattle, and I think they'll cover. So
I think they will too. Yeah. I just, again, you just kind of fight. Is it really going to be that easy? But it just kind of looks it to me. I like the Patriots as well, but I just think they've been very, very fortunate.
I really like Drake May. I think he's a cool quarterback. I think he's going to have a really good career.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for Sam Darnold, man. Like, dude, he was dead in the water. Like his career, he started with the Jets, it was over. And just no one wanted Carolina, and just like kind of an afterthought, and then finally, he's playing. He looked like Tom Brady in the NFC Championship. I mean, he was slinging it.
He was great.
And not just a sling, like the plays that they needed to make, whether him running with the ball or getting that first down or whatever. Like, he was making them, and that. God, he's turned into a hell of a quarterback.
Yeah, he played great, and yeah, I'm rooting for him too. I think it'd be such a cool story, kind of rode off, and just like you said, done, and to do it would just be it'd be really really awesome.
And the Vikings, how do you think they feel right now? So,
oh my God,
could be the Super Bowl MVP.
Ugh.
And you got rid of him for JJ McCarthy in the future. So,
Ugh.
All right, guys, it's gonna do it for us. I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. Until next time. Oh, by the way, make sure you watch this weekend. Big time Derby preps. Until next time, I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. See you guys next weekend.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Blinkers Off. Join our horse racing community at racingdudes.com and follow us on Twitter at racing_dudes. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.